Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're looking at aircraft dogfight pursuit types. So in this video we're imagining that there is a dogfight. That's two aircraft fighting one-on-one in close range to each other, and we're assuming that the dogfight has got to the point where one guy is the aggressor and the other guy is the defender. So the aggressor is essentially following or chasing the defender. Now needless to say, the aggressor has to follow the rough path of the defender to keep behind him. But within that path of chase, there are three elevation types that we can fly, three different pursuit types that we will fly for different reasons. They're split into three: lead pursuit, pure pursuit, and lag pursuit. Now, a real-life dogfight is very complicated and multi-dimensional. We could have aircraft chasing each other in multiple planes or even helical type planes. So it's really complicated to model that and think about that in our mind. So what we're going to do is simplify our dogfight here into the lateral plane only. So the dogfight has only one plane, and that is on the deck. And it's going to be a circle on the deck. They're going to be chasing each other around the circle. You can see the little diagram we've got here is just the kind of lower crescent of that circle. So both aircraft are going to keep at the same altitude at all times, and the difference between these dogfights in this example is the amount of elevation that our aggressor plane here has in relation to the defender here. So a lead pursuit will be where we are chasing him around in this circle. These planes here and their kind of dotted paths are obviously a cartoonized extreme version. But we can see that the lead pursuit here, where we'll start, has his elevation, his longitudinal axis or aircraft datum line pointing in front of the defender. Now that's a lead pursuit, and the lead pursuit provides closure even when the defender is a faster aircraft. So in this case, for instance, we could be an F5 here and we could be fighting a much faster F18 or F15, and we could still close on that faster aircraft if we were to use a lead pursuit. And of course, the reason that we close on the hostile with the lead pursuit is basic geometry, because we're taking a shorter path around the curve or around the circle. Now, the effect that the lead pursuit is going to have on our aggressing aircraft is that the angle of turn is always going to increase. Also, the angle of attack, or the alpha of our aircraft, is going to increase, and therefore the amount of drag that our aircraft is presenting to the airstream is going to increase, and that is always going to mean that our speed is going to reduce. So that's something to bear in mind. However, even though our speed is reducing, it is outweighed by the fact that we're taking the shorter path, so we will still always close, assuming the speed differences aren't too large between the two aircraft. If this pursuit is continued, then the closure rate between our aircraft and the defender will keep increasing, leading to a possible overshoot. So a typical way of overshooting a defender in a dogfight situation is if we're taking a lead pursuit here and our closure rate becomes so high that by the time we're thinking about braking and losing speed, then it's too late and we're going to overshoot the hostile, and that will lead to a reversal of the dogfight where he becomes the aggressor and we become the defender. So that's something to keep in mind at all points when using the lead pursuit. Now, the other reason, as well as closure rate, that we could want to use lead pursuit is to employ our weapons. So if we are turning in a tight circle like this, we're always going to want to pull lead on the target to shoot our guns for ballistic purposes or our missiles. If we were shooting in a pure pursuit or a lag pursuit with our guns and missiles, then they would obviously just miss the aircraft because they don't have enough turning ability to keep with the aircraft. The next type of pursuit is the pure pursuit. So this is where our aircraft here has its longitudinal axis or aircraft datum line pointing directly at the hostile in terms of elevation. A common mistake is thinking that a pure pursuit here would mean it's following the enemy exactly. That's not true. You are still taking a shortcut. Like with the lead, you're taking a shorter path and you're going to have a higher angle of turn, angle of attack, and higher drag because of this, but it's just less extreme than the lead pursuit. So you will still provide closure rate with a pure pursuit. Why you would actually want to use the pure pursuit is usually so that you can gain a radar or IR look on the hostile. It basically means that we're going to have the aircraft here placed in our HUD, assuming that we've got a HUD in our aircraft, which is where you're going to have your sensors usually, especially if you're using bore sight locks to actually lock the target up, IR or radar. As well as that, a useful effect of the pure pursuit is that for the aggressor, that we are presenting to the defender the minimal cross section possible because we're directly head on, and that causes problems for the defender when they're trying to evade because they can't see exactly what our aircraft is doing. And finally, we have a lag pursuit. A lag pursuit is where the ADL of our aircraft is pointing behind, in terms of elevation, behind the defender. So this is the one that where we're actually going to be following in the footsteps of the hostile aircraft. So assuming all things equal, this aircraft is the same as this aircraft, then this would, in lag pursuit, just cause an indefinite following of the hostile, with no closure rate and no turning inside of the hostile. The effects are that it neutralizes or reverses the closure rate. So if we were, for instance, in a lead pursuit and we closed to the aircraft and we were closing too fast, we would then switch to lag pursuit, so our elevation would now be behind the hostile, and in this case the closure rate would stabilize or decrease and we could actually fall back from the hostile. If imagining that we've come from a lead pursuit and a pure pursuit as well, which is very likely, it also relatively reduces our angle of turn, our angle of attack, and our drag, meaning we can have a higher speed with the same thrust. Lag pursuit is what I always think of as following the hostile. So if you just want to follow the hostile, if you don't want to engage weapons at that point and you just want to keep him followed, then you would always use the lag pursuit. Very difficult for the hostile to escape from a lag pursuit. Like I've said here, the opponent is in the footsteps of the defending aircraft. So bearing in mind our simplified dogfight, we're going to go and do it for real in DCS now, and then study the TAC view and draw our conclusions from that. After that, we'll go and do a proper three-dimensional realistic dogfight and apply these these dogfight pursuit types to that. Okay, in the cockpit now, going to air brakes on, select guns, radar on, bore sight lock. Okay, so my gun pipper, as predicted with lead, is this guy here, and my aircraft is pointing to this here, my ADL cross, my longitudinal axis. So 3,000 feet. Okay, Joker, when you're ready, go into the simulated lateral dogfight. So first of all, lag pursuit, we're just going to follow him, keep him roughly at our A-frame here. So in this case, we're just going to follow him round. We're not going to gain on him at all. We're not going to pull away at all. But also, we can't employ our weapons or get a lock. Next, we're going to go for the pure pursuit. I'm going to put my ADL cross directly on the target. That means my longitudinal axis is aiming at him. I could acquire my sidewinder, a lock, or whatever I want to do with that, but our closure rate increases. My angle of attack increases. I'm going to stabilize back into lag pursuit. Now I'm going to have a fictitious shot with guns, so I'm going to move to lead pursuit. So I'm going to put my guns pipper roughly on the target, and I'm going to be aiming ahead of the target with my ADL. This is going to force me to get closer and closer as my angle of turn and my angle of attack, everything is ramping up. In this case, I'll have to be careful of an overshoot because I'm going to continuously get closer and closer. Now I'm going to put it back to lag, stabilize. Back to lead again. I'm going to pull a more aggressive lead this time. To ensure we don't overshoot, I'm going to get back to lag. I'm going to go a real high lag, like that, high angle lag, which means I'm going to allow him to get away from me quicker, and then I can put us back to a stable lag here, and then we start the pursuit again. So that's how we control the dogfight as the pursuer. Okay, break off, Joker. Okay, let's run this through. So Joker starts the turn, true airspeed 450 knots or so. In we go, about 1,800 feet. We've got a bit of overspeed, but I'm slowing down now. So we're currently in lag pursuit, and you can see, because that is our ADL there, that's our longitudinal axis, it's behind the aircraft by 10 to 20 degrees or so. And the further we put that behind the aircraft is the further we're going to let him get away, the less inversed closure we're going to have, or the more opening. You can see our turn rate, our Gs, our alphas and whatnot, and our speed. Both got the same jet with the same amount of power. So I'm now closing to a pure pursuit by the looks of it. So I've got my ADL on directly on that aircraft. And we can see the distance, although we've both got the same amount of power, remember, the distance is now coming down to 1300. Now back to lag. The distance is going to stabilise or slightly increase. And we can, like I said, we can control this distance here with how the angle we create there with our lag. Back to pure pursuit. The distance is starting to close again. You'll see our speed is going to start dropping down a little. Now looks like that's pure or just a tiny bit of lead. Yep, that's a bit of lead actually, up to 900 feet. We're closing. Our turn rate is slightly higher. Neutralised now. And back to lag. We've got all the way up to 800 feet there. So remember, there's no difference in power between these two aircraft, or weight or anything. From lag into an aggressive lead. So again, if we're talking about lead, the more we can create this angle here with the lead, it's the aggressiveness. So a really aggressive 20-degree lead there. And you can see we're quickly closing up now to 500 feet, 400 feet. With that lead now, about 20-30 degrees of lead. And then stabilise that back into lag. And a big lag angle now, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees. And look how quickly, bearing in mind, we're using the same power at all times, the distance is increasing. Back to pure. Closing again. Back to lag to stabilise. And that's the end of the exercise. That showed pretty much perfectly the different way the 3 different methods of chase affected our dogfight, bearing in mind that the 2 aircraft are exactly equal at all points. So the only thing we've got left to do now is show this in a proper controlled dogfight in the proper 3 dimensions, and I'll call out the different pursuit types as we go. Okay, we've got Joker in the Hornet. Tail is going to be in the defending F-15. First, we're going to merge. So after the merge, Joker is going to get on the rear of the F-15, who's gone low. Starting off in a lag pursuit just so that we can follow the opponent. Managed to be closed because we did slightly smaller radius turns. That was pure pursuit. Now we've got lead and now we can fire. Beautiful.
It's so annoying not being able to like turn it into scissors.
It was a good example though, guys. Do you want to try it again just for the viewers to watch?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, respawn when you're ready. Okay, round 2. Got to make the F-15 lose, so we've sent him down low, we've sent the Hornet up high. Oh, we should do a video about merging soon as well. So currently it looks like a pure pursuit just to close in on the hostile. Switching to lag, now we're closer. Pure pursuit, closing in, back to lag, pure, lead, and we got him. As you can see there, other things were taking effect on the chase, depending what the F-15 did, depending what the F-18 did, but you can still see the general essence of where the different pursuit types were required. Okay, that's showing the different dogfight pursuit types. I hope that helps. Go and do some dogfighting pursuits, and I'll see you later.